Welcome to Collaboard. Today you will learn a lot about your new digital whiteboard tool, and I'm very happy that you're here today. Why do you need a solution like Collaboard? I think we all know the world has changed and we meet more often online. So our goal is that you can make the best out of the time when you meet online. That's the core goal of Collaboard, to improve the collaboration where you're in a remote meeting or when you are in a hybrid workshop scenario. This is what Collaboard is made for. Now, what can you do with Collaboard? That's a tricky question, as there are so many things you can do. So you can use Collaboard in your online meetings, in your workshops, for mind mapping, brainstorming, training, for agile working, design thinking, and much more. So it really depends a little bit on what you do in your job and which department you're in, and dependent on that you will find different use cases for Collaboard. In the end, Collaboard is an online whiteboard, so everything you have done on your real whiteboard or in your workshop room, this is something you can do in Collaboard as well. When you log in the first time to Collaboard, you see your project cockpit. Here you see all the projects you created, and in Collaboard, a project equals a whiteboard. And this is also where you can create new boards, where you can copy them, rename them, and where you can manage all the projects you create in Collaboard. So this is usually what you see first after logging in. And when you create a project, you usually see a blank screen, except you start with a template, but this is something we will cover later. First of all, let's have a look on where to find what in the application. So you see here on the left side, we have the toolbar that you can use to add elements to the board, like sticky note, text, images, and so on. Usually this toolbar is shown to every user in Collaboard. Here on the bottom left, we see some other tools, and these are the facilitator tools, like the presentation mode, voting, timer, and so on. And these tools are not visible to all the users. So you need to have a certain level of permission and license to be able to work with these tools. On the bottom right of the whiteboard canvas, we see the tools that help us for orientation. For example, we have here the zoom level, so we see how far or how close we are zoom in to the canvas. We also have the possibility to display a minimap, and there is a button here that looks a little bit like a tennis court, and if you click on that, you completely zoom out of the board, and then you see all the content that is created there. On the upper right side, you find the drawing tools, some standard features like undo, redo. There is also the option how to invite other people, export, and so on. And I think also very important are the settings, which you can access here. And what you can do with these settings, this is something we will cover a little bit later in the training. On the upper left, you can click on your user icon, and then you see who is taking part in your project. And you also have the option to leave your project by just clicking here on the Collaboard icon. And that's all. So you see, it's super simple, it's straightforward, and I promise you, you don't need to spend so much time, and you will become a Collaboard expert very soon. Now, when you create the Collaboard project, you have an infinite virtual whiteboard space to work on. So the first thing you need to understand is that you can zoom in and you can zoom out, like in Google Maps or in other applications. And when you're using a mouse, you can do this with your mouse wheel, so you can just zoom in and out very easily. And if you like to use a touchpad, then you can also do this with the touchpad. So just use two fingers with the standard gestures for zooming in and zooming out. Or if you're working with Collaboard on a tablet, it's also the same gesture, so that's something you already know from other applications. So it's a super straightforward. And on the bottom right, you always see the zoom level. So here we are at 56%, and this is super important when you work with Collaboard, to respect the zoom level, but that's something we will look at a little bit later. So we know we can zoom in and out of this infinite virtual whiteboard canvas. Now the question is, how do we move from left to right and up and down? And that's also super easy. If you have a mouse, just make a left click, hold it, and then you can drag your mouse to move around the canvas. It's important that you always click on the white area on the board or an empty area on the board, because if you're selecting an object and do the same, then you're moving this object and not the canvas. Now, if you don't like to work with a mouse because you're a big fan of your touchpad, then in this case you can activate the touchpad mode in Collaboard to support all the standard gestures you already are familiar with. And to activate the touchpad mode, just click here on the upper right on settings, and now you can enable the touchpad mode. And if you want to see all the gestures that are supported by Collaboard, click here on this little help icon, and then it's again explained how the touchpad mode in Collaboard is working. So after understanding how to zoom in and out on the canvas and how to move and navigate, we will have a look at how to invite others. The core concept of Collaboard is to work with your team, with other people, internal or external, in real time, and to do that we need to invite them to the project we created. And what's important to know is that there are two kinds of users in Collaboard. There are the registered users and then there are the guest users. What is the difference? A registered user has a Collaboard account, so he has an email address or whatever that is registered for Collaboard, and the application knows this user. A guest user is something unknown to Collaboard, so this means usually this is a person who just clicks on a link, maybe enters the name, and then immediately has access to the board that is shared with him. Now what's important to know, there are different roles in Collaboard. There is, for example, the facilitator role, and only a registered person can be the facilitator. Guest users, they are limited, so they can be viewers on the board, or they can be simple editors by just editing some content. Now let's see how we invite these people. So we see here on the upper right we have this common sharing icon, and if we click on that we have now a few ways to invite other people. So first of all, we can enter the email address of somebody and sending them an email. That's one way to do that. If you have multiple emails, you can just copy paste them there. But to be honest, most of the people, they are using the feature where they just create a link they share. So here, if we look at that, we can create a link for registered users. So let's say these are all the people from my team. They should have editor permissions from the beginning on that board. And then we have our guest users, so the people who don't need to sign up. And at the beginning, they shouldn't be able to interact with the content. So we just provide them viewer permissions. And now in our case, we can define how long the link shall be valid. So let's choose 1 day. We can protect this board by a password if we want. And there is an option to say that we would like that our guest users identify themselves. What does this mean? This means they just need to enter a name when they access the board. If you disable this feature, in this case, your guests won't have any identification, so there will be just guest 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on. So choose the settings you like, and then you can click on Generate Link. In this case, you have a link you can copy and share via chat or put it to the meeting invite or whatever. And all the people can just click on the link and will be able to join your board to start working together in real time. So quite straightforward. This is how you invite others to work together. And when you have now multiple people on the same board, the question is a little bit what you do. And one of the standard use cases in Collaboard is brainstorming, so meaning adding ideas and thoughts by adding notes. And let's have a short look on how we add notes in Collaboard. So to do that, we click here on the menu on Note. Now we can select if you would like to have a square or a rectangle. We can choose the color if we like, and we can decide if you want to add just one note, 5 or 10. Now in our case, let's add one note, so in green, so we do that. And you see what's happening now, our mouse pointer turns into a note icon. So we just go somewhere on the canvas, best case if there is not any other content, and then we click and we immediately generate the note where we can start writing down our ideas, for example. What's important, you see now that I'm editing this note, and above it you see this toolbar. So here, for example, I can always change the color of that note. I can adjust the font, I can apply some styles to the font, and so on. I have here the option to copy that, and here with these 3 dots I find some other information. Now the cool thing about Collaboard is, if you once understood that when you select an object, like a sticky note, you always get this menu, then you already know how to work with text, shapes and all the other elements, because in the end it's the same concept. So you will see that's super easy, and you will get familiar very fast with adding notes and all the other elements. But Collaboard isn't limited just to sticky notes, so it's also possible to draw and sketch. In the end, it's an online whiteboard, and when we developed the application, for us it was very important to provide you a very similar set of digital pens you already know from the real world. And this is why we have 5 different pens in Collaboard, and you can activate here on top the drawing mode. So you have like a nib, there is a highlighter, a brush, a normal pen and a pencil. And depending a little bit on what you're doing, you can use one or the other of these pens. To be honest, Collaboard works the best when you're using a digital pen on a tablet or on a graphic tablet, something like that. For example, we made very good experience with the tablets from Wacom. And in this case, you can just select then a pen, you can draw. And the cool thing here is that you can reuse your drawings. So maybe spend a little bit time at the beginning, make it beautiful, but then afterwards you can always select it, your drawing, you can change the color afterwards, you can copy that, you can multiply it. So that's something really useful, and you can therefore reuse your workshop visualizations and things like that. So drawing works best, as I said, on a tablet. And what you can do here as well, please make sure you have this setting called Pen Auto Detect enabled, because if this is enabled and you have like a pen on your device, you can start drawing immediately, and the mouse or the finger still serves you to move around the canvas. And the notes and the drawings, these are the basic features of Collaboard. But that's not the end. In Collaboard you can reuse a lot of content you already produced in other applications. For example, you can import documents like PowerPoint files, Word files or Excel files and upload them directly to the Collaboard canvas. There is a best practice which we recommend, and this is to create a PDF out of these files and then upload this PDF. Let me shortly explain you why. So it could be that in your PowerPoint you're using a special format, you have like a special font or whatever, and in this case Collaboard may not know this format or this font. So if you want to be 100% sure that what you have done in the PowerPoint is represented in Collaboard exactly the same way, then create a PDF first and upload that. Now I already added here a document, so let's zoom in a little bit and we see this is now a document with 20 pages. So I can browse through the pages. This is one thing I can do. And if I'm interested now in one page or a set of pages, I have here the option to extract that. So let's say we would like to extract now this page. I can just click here on extract. And what's happening now, here on the right side, a copy of this page is generated. And now this whole visual part of collaboration comes into place, as we can here, for example, take the highlighter, mark something that's really important. We can also use then the normal pen to visualize things, and so on. So this is something that I think it's really cool, and we are using this ourselves a lot. And let me give you an example how we are using the document feature at Collaboard. So I'm clicking here now on this link, and we are opening just another board, and what you see here is an eagle, which is definitely not a document, but this eagle represents a little bit how we are using the documents. So the eagle is there because it should tell you can always get the eagle perspective on all your documents. And you see now what's here on this project, you see there's a lot of documents which we imported, like contracts, quotes, and things like that. And sometimes you also see it's a little bit colorized, so this is what we marked. That's important for us. And then you find sticky notes for tasks and so on. And how cool is this, visualizing all the documents we have somewhere on a whiteboard and not searching for them in the Explorer search, or needing to remember that the file is in a folder, in a subfolder, and so on. So I really like this approach, as it's much more visual and gives you a great overview about all the documents and things like that. So this just as an example how we are using the document feature at Collaboard. Now what's next? So in Collaboard we can also add images, and there are a few ways to do that. So basically you can go here to this toolbar, you can upload an image from your file system. Of course you can just drag and drop it if you have your File Explorer open. You can take a picture of yourself, that's something quite cool. Or dependent on your settings, you also have the option to search the web and add images from a web search directly to Collaboard. My personal favorite is taking a picture with the camera of my device. What I do a lot is asking the people to upload a selfie of themselves to the board, and then usually we use this selfie to make an introduction round, or we use it to get to know each other. So that's something people really like to do. Yeah, so we have seen we can add notes, we can draw, we can add text, like this here is a text element, we can upload images, but this was not enough for us. So we said image already says more than 1,000 words, but what says more than 1,000 images? These are videos. And this is why we also wanted to make it possible to add videos to the whiteboard canvas. You can upload the videos from your device, but you also have the option to record the videos with your camera. And then when the videos are on your whiteboard, you can play them, you can share them with others. And we think that's super important, because if we look at the younger generation nowadays, videos are so omnipresent in their daily life. This is why we thought it's important to have them on the online whiteboard as well. But let me give you an example. So this project, which we are looking now, is basically a Collaboard video training. So what we did here is we added our tutorial videos from YouTube, and we connected them with each other. So a person who is new to Collaboard, he or she can just go through this storyline and watch one video after the other. And after that, she or he becomes a Collaboard expert. So a simple implementation, but very useful, as I really like the visual representation of having these videos directly on the online whiteboard itself. And of course, when you record a video with your camera, you can do a video protocol, you can leave video messages for people when you are not working together at the same time, and so on. So there are a lot of use cases for videos here. Another very important feature in Collaboard, these are the shapes. So in Collaboard you can add here from this quick bar shapes immediately. So basically we are selecting now this heart, and then we are just adding it to our canvas. And the shapes, they are real shapes. So this means we can apply a fill color. We also have a border where we can change the border color, or we can increase the border strength, for example. And shapes are super useful for building templates, for marking areas and on the board. And besides this quick toolbar for the shapes, you can click on this all shape options. And now you find all the shapes we have here in Collaboard. You will see there are some funnier shapes like the animals, the emojis, plants or food. But there are also business-oriented shapes. For example, you have a lot of things to design processes, visualize workflows, and so on. And for all the shapes you have, you can also decide what color you want. So you can just choose here a color out of the spectrum. You can choose one of the standard colors, or if you don't like that, you can just use this color picker and grab the color from anywhere on the board to make sure the next shape you're adding exactly has this color. The more you will work with Collaboard, the more familiar you will get with shapes. Very important and super useful feature. Now, besides the shapes, it's also possible to connect elements on the board. And that's useful to create mind maps, to design processes, visualize workflows, create concept maps, diagrams, and so on. And in the end, it's super simple, and you can connect all the objects you add there. If it's an image, a video, a sticky note, or whatever, you can connect them with each other. And let's have a short look on how we connect them. So we're adding here a sticky note. And now what you see here around the sticky notes, we have these 4 circles. Now we can just grab one circle and put here a line to these processes. You already see this line is now violet, it's dashed, it has a diamond and the arrow and so on. So in the end, these connections can be adjusted based on your needs. So we can make it, we can change the color, we can also adjust the size, and we can decide what it should have at the beginning and at the end. So you see there is a multitude of options, and with all these features you have a super sophisticated way to work here with connections in Collaboard, and this helps you to do mind maps and all these other things directly on the whiteboard canvas. Let's have a short look on a mind map example. So I'm just clicking here and we are opening another board. And here, for example, you see a mind map with galaxies and planets where we connected all these things with each other. And the cool thing is now, if you move something, you see everything stays glued together. So we can put it here. And now a super nice feature is that we can also disconnect and reconnect. So let's say this connection here, it shouldn't be connected to Mars, so we would like to connect it to this galaxy. In this case, I can just grab it, then move it here and reconnect it. So I'm super flexible working with that, and that's something people really like when they use Collaboard, working with these connections, as it's a very, very powerful feature. A lot of the things we have seen so far, they are great when you work together at real time. So let's say you are visualizing something during a workshop, using the pen, or you're writing down your ideas on sticky notes. But sometimes it's also that you don't work at the same time on the whiteboard. Maybe your team is collaborating asynchronously. So what we need in this case, we need an option to inform other people, hey, we have done something on the board. And this is something you can do with comments. So here in Collaboard, you have a feature called comment, and if you click on that, you can put a comment anywhere on the board. So let's say we would like now to say that we really like these doors here, we can add the comments, then click on that and say, this is a nice car. All the other people who are on the same whiteboard, they are also seeing that, hey, there is a new comment. Let's have a look on how this looks like for somebody else. So I switch now the browser, and we see I'm not logged in as Michael anymore. So here Leonardo da Vinci joined my project, and we see that Leonardo sees, there is an unread comment, because this red number indicates, hey, there is something you need to check. So Leonardo can now open that comment, and he said, I agree. And now in this comment feature, you also have some sort of chat. Now, if Leonardo wants to inform Michael that he has done here something, he can use the add feature and mention Michael, hey, please check out this comment. And in this case, Michael is getting an email, and the email is telling him, hey, there is something from Leonardo on this board, and in the email you just have a link. You can click on this link and jump directly to the comment here in Collaboard. Of course, you can always see that there are unread comments by these red numbers, which we have seen before, and that's a very useful feature, especially when you don't work together at real time. Now, for many of you, Collaboard is something new. Maybe that's not the way you were used to work, but you will see Collaboard uses a lot of standards you already know. So if you are familiar with other whiteboard tools, if you're familiar with PowerPoint or other solutions, then you will find a lot of things in Collaboard very easy, because this is what you already know. For example, there are these standard commands for undo and redo. If you want to select multiple objects in a region, you just hit Shift, and then you can select multiple objects together. And we also have sophisticated online help. So if you go on help.collaboard.app, then in this case here you will find a lot of explanation. And the cool thing is you have something like a Google-like search. So let's say we would want to understand how it works with the images. We just type in here images, and Collaboard gives us suggestions on how to work with images. So this means you will find all the information needed in an easy way and nicely presented. Now, so far we have seen most of the things we can add to the online whiteboard itself. But let's say you're preparing now a meeting or a workshop. There are a few things that you need to consider. And first of all, I want to let you know about the lock features. Often it's very important that you lock your objects so people don't move them accidentally or by purpose. And to lock something, that's very easy. Just select the object, then click here on the three dots, and now you see there is an option on how to lock it. As soon as you locked an object, you can't select it anymore. All the other people, they are not able to select it at the moment. And if you want to unlock the object, you need to tell Collaboard that you want now to select unlocked objects. In this case, just click here on select. Now activate the select locked objects feature, and now you can click here, you can unlock it, you can move it, and of course you can lock it again. Now a second thing that's very important is the zoom level. So we see here now we are at 50% zoom level. So we can zoom up to 400%. And of course, if you're creating a sticky note at 400%, it's very big and almost too big. On the other side, if we zoom out to, I don't know, 18% or less, then in this case all the content is very small. So we recommend to you to make sure that you work at Collaboard within a zoom level from 60 to 100%. So all the elements you add to the board and everything is optimized for this zoom level. Now in Collaboard you have an infinite whiteboard canvas, and this makes it sometimes difficult for the people to find where things are, especially when your board is very big. So you can do two things to make it easier for the people, and the first option is to create quick links. Quick links, it's something quite cool because you can just select an area on the board, like all these elements here, and now I have the option to add a quick link. I can give the quick link a name, and this means I created now a quick link to this specific area. I have already done that in this whole project. So if we are clicking here on this compass icon, we see all the quick links we created here already in this project, and we can just click on one of them to jump easily to this position. So let's say we would like to go back to the commands, for example, or to the connections. We just click here, and then we're moving directly to the connections back. Another option is to link objects with each other. So in this case here, you see there is an image, and this image has a link. And this link is linking to a quick link on the board, but this link could also be to another object, or you can link to an external URL. And this is a very powerful feature as well, because it allows you to steer and drive people from one position to the other on the whiteboard, or also link it to external content on external websites or files that's on your SharePoint and so on. So if we are clicking here just on the link, we're moving now fastly to the commands, then to the settings you already know, and then here we are back to what we should consider when we prepare a Collaboard project for a meeting and a workshop. Now let's click once again on the link, and let's talk a few moments about the facilitator tools. So we have seen so far there are all these elements we can use to put content to the board itself. Now to really steer what's happening and to make sure the people who are on your whiteboard are doing what you want them to do, especially when you're a facilitator, you have here a few features that help you to do this. First of all, there is a presentation mode, there is a get attention feature, there is a timer, and there is a voting feature. Let's have a short look on how the presentation mode is working. So what I'm doing here now, on the right side, I have now Michael, and on the left side we have Michael, and on the right side we have Leonardo. And you see they're not at the same position on the whiteboard. So maybe we want now to bring Leonardo and all these people to the same position where Michael is. In this case we are able to use this get attention feature, and by clicking this you will see now that Leonardo is immediately jumping to the same position where I am on the board. So that's super useful if you're doing activities and you want to bring all the people together. But let's look at another use case. Let's say you do a brainstorming session and now you stopped it and you want to go through the ideas and discuss them. Normally you would now share your screen via the video conference solution and everybody will see. So this already disrupts a little bit the creative flow you have been in. So if you use the presentation mode in Collaboard, you don't need screen sharing anymore when you work with the whiteboard. Let me show you how this is working. So I'm starting here now the presentation mode, and as soon as I move on the whiteboard, all the other people are following me at the same time. And one of the cool things is that they are all in a read-only mode. So this means while I'm presenting, they can't really interact with the content on my board. I'm as the facilitator, I still can access all the features and do everything. Can also use here the quick links. For example, in our case, we use now the quick link to jump fastly to the facilitator tools again. So let's see where they are. Here they are. And you see immediately we are jumping back to the facilitator tools. Now let's make this window big again. Let's stop here the presentation mode. And the additional facilitator features are the timer, for example, or there is also a voting and a rating feature in Collaboard. So if you use the voting, you can decide how many votes people shall have, and they can apply their votes to all the elements on the board that are not locked. That's one way. And the other way is to rate things. So here in this case, you can just provide a star rating from 1 to 5 star to other elements on the board. And in the end, Collaboard will then calculate the average of the stars provided to an element. And we believe with these two options, you can do very sophisticated voting sessions, and you have very good way to figure out fast what's the opinion of the group and which is maybe the idea you should pursue after your workshop. Now, when you start to work with Collaboard, you can always start on a blank canvas. But sometimes you don't want to start from scratch, so this is why you can use one of the templates. In Collaboard, we have over 100 pre-existing templates you can use, and adding templates is super simple. So you see here this option to open the template window. Now you can go through the categories, you can check out these templates, and to add one, just select the template and click on use template, and it's directly put to your board itself. We are working on extending this list of templates. We also have customers who create their own templates, and we started to work together with a community of very active users, and they are starting to provide templates to Collaboard, which are then available to all the users. So in case you would like to share one of your projects with us and make it part of the community, just reach out and let us know. We're happy to do that. In Collaboard, you also have some of your personal preferences you can adjust. For example, the user interface size. If you go to the settings, you can define the size of the user interface. For example, you can have it like the default size, you can go for the medium size or for the large size, really dependent on your preferences and also maybe the screen size and how good your site is. So this is something you can adjust as you wish. And of course, a whiteboard doesn't need to be always white. Here in Collaboard, you can change the background color. That's something I really like. And let's say you're going to a little bit darker background color, then Collaboard recognizes that and it automatically activates a dark mode. And you see now when we activate this dark mode, all the content that has been black before turns white. And of course, if we are disabling the dark mode again, then things that were white turn again black and so on. So that's something quite cool. And especially if you like to work at night, I recommend to you using this dark mode, as it's more convenient from your eyes, and it also saves a little bit of energy as your screen is less bright. At the end of a workshop or a meeting or whatever, you would like to share the results with other people. Of course, you can always go back to the whiteboard and you can adjust this content you have created dynamically. Some people would like to export. And in Collaboard, there are two ways to export content. You can either export the complete board as it all, or you can just export a selection of elements. So I'm pressing now Shift and I'm just selecting here this part. And in our case, we would like now to export the selection. Now I have three options to do that. I can export it as an image. This will generate a PNG. Usually I recommend that you create the image with the highest quality. As a second option, you can generate a PDF. Or as a third option, you can also generate a CSV file. And if you're generating a CSV file, you have all the content of the sticky notes, the text, the shapes, and so on in a table, and you can re-import this to other solutions if this is something you like to do. If you want to export the full board, then in this case, just click here on the upper right on Export Project. You can take here this image, or you can as well use the PDF. And what's quite cool, for the PDF you can define the page format. You can also say how many columns and row you would like to have, and really adjust this based on your needs. For example, if you want to print the whiteboard afterwards, then that's a very nice way to export it and print it out. To create then the export, just click on this button and the export is generated and you can download it directly to your device. Yeah, and that's usually what people do at the end of a session, and we are now also at the end of the training. So thank you very much for your time, for your interest, and for watching it till the end. Our slogan is, with Collaboard, great minds think together. And we are looking forward that you also will become one of these great minds. But to become that, it's now your turn. You need to try out, experiment. You can't broke the solution. And I think there is a very good quote that describes the best way how you get along with Collaboard. And this is learning by doing. Thank you, and I wish you a lot of good collaborative sessions in the future with our online whiteboard.